I finished the last talk on this topic of the insinuation that Hinduism is stupid and irrational. I finished the last talk by saying I would start discussing point by point the allegations made by someone who gives their name as Jiya, who appears to be a Muslim out to show that Hinduism is stupid and irrational. Just one more point before I get into the point-by-point discussion of this. So many CEOs of major international corporations are Hindus, major corporations based in America, far disproportional to the population of Hindus in America. There's also a huge number of Hindu, highly intelligent people powering Silicon Valley. So are we to presume that all these highly intelligent and successful people are all stupid and irrational? Is it the stupid, so-called stupid, irrational Hinduism that makes them so intelligent and successful? The claim, indirectly, is that Islam is sensible and rational, but despite the fact that there are more Muslims than Hindus in America, they aren't doing nearly as well. I don't want to get into Islam bashing or anything bashing, but if you want to make aggressive claims that Hinduism is stupid and irrational, some things are going to get pointed out, which you might not like, but I'm talking about facts here, not opinions. Okay, so Jiya starts her tirade by... Actually, it's not phrased as a tirade. It starts off sounding as if it's somewhat reasonable. So she starts by saying, "These questions are worth a deep ponder." I seriously doubt if Jiya is capable of deeply pondering anything. Her questions and claims are so shallow and misinformed. There are so many misunderstandings, misrepresentations, and plain lies in her tirade that it's hard even to reply. Just like in the first talk on this subject, I gave the so-called pundit from the village who started saying, "Kastram, kastram, gastram, gastram." How do you speak with someone who's so foolish? You'd have to have a little basic knowledge of Sanskrit to understand that. Several questions were sent. I'm going to fast forward to question 7, or these questions that come under the number 7 sent by Jiya. I'm going to go to that first because it's really at the heart of all the other provocative questions. Question number 7, or series of questions. If Hindu religion is such an ancient one, why isn't there much propaganda for it all over the world? Why the other religions, like Islam and Christianity, have so much acceptability? Seems like it's an Indian writing because it's Indian, poor grammar English. How could they win more followers than Hindu religion if it is ancient? It's undisputed as a historical fact that what is now called Hinduism, which didn't get that name until much later, what is now called Hinduism, far predates certainly Christianity and Islam, predates Buddhism. Buddhism was an offshoot or a protest against Hinduism, which incorporated much of Hindu ideas and culture. So the claim that it's trying to say that is, if Hindu religion is such an ancient one, well, it's not even a question. if your father never had sex in your life, how come you were born? It's just, it's just like such a stupid question. It's like saying something like this. Anyway, the claim that because Hinduism is ancient, then it should be more widespread. What's the logical basis of that? And what is this subjectivity that religions like Islam and Christianity have so much acceptability? Who are they accepted by that we have to say? I mean, there's just so much lacking in any depth to these questions that it's really hard to... That's why I hesitated to reply, because, like I say, it's like, what do you do? It's like trying to explain something to someone who just doesn't have the capacity to understand it. Okay, so the claim is that Islam and Christianity are better because they have more followers than Hindu religion. Well, here in India, more women can afford plastic bangles than gold bangles. Does it mean that plastic is better? More people take primary education than university education. Does it mean that primary education is higher? How many people watch reality TV shows and how many watch documentaries about serious issues? Does it mean that reality TV is on a higher level or is more important for human development? Actually, there are traces of Vedic civilization all over the world. You can Google it, I guess, if you want. It's one of those things which is not taught in the biased Western mainstream, which is highly biased against Hinduism. You can read a book by Rajiv Malhotra called Breaking India, which shows that the deliberate policy of the British during the British rule to demean everything Indian, particularly Hindu, is continuing up to the present day. Just the other day, going off on a little bit of a tangent here, I saw a BBC article in which it was stated that 14.5% of all women who committed suicide in India were housewives, and which is more than 50% of all the women who committed suicide. And then there's a whole big article about how housewives in India are mistreated and this and that. But more than 14.5% of the women in India must be housewives. And if you think of those figures, then far more men than women committed suicide. But it's all about the women and how the women are mistreated. And there's a constant propaganda coming out from the BBC. I see their articles, how women in India are so much mistreated and this and that. It's so much propaganda. I'm not saying that women are not mistreated, but it's not culturally inherent to the extent that the BBC wants to make out. Anyway, there are traces of Vedic civilization around the world which indicate that what is now called Hinduism was spread around the world, was very ancient, but it wasn't proselytizing in the way that Christianity and Islam and even Buddhism started off as a proselytizing religion. Hinduism didn't have an agenda to convert others or kill others if they don't accept Hinduism. One reason why it's not proselytizing, because in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Manusha Partha Sarvashaha, that everyone is in one way or another on the path of God. He has a plan for everyone. So the general Hindu outlook was that someone is born in a certain situation according to their karma, and that is the situation God has put them in. So there's no need to proselytize. Let them work out their karma in their present life. It has become proselytizing in some way or other. Hinduism is now being preached. Again, this word Hindu, it's a very broad term, which I don't fully subscribe to, but just for the sake of discussion, I'm doing so. The movement that I'm in, the Hare Krishna movement, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, is interested in sharing its knowledge. So if you have something good, why not share it? In the present age, people's identities are very liquid, especially in the Western world. People are prepared to try out various things. So if knowledge of Sanatan Dharma can be given to them, and why not give it? So many have taken up yoga in the West, mostly on a bodily basis, some on a spiritual or quasi-spiritual basis also. Another reason why Hinduism has not made headway in the West is due to the fanatical attitude which previously was deep-rooted in Christianity and to a large extent, I would say, is still there in Islam, that only our religion is right. Actually, this was until the 1960s with Vatican II. That was inherent in Roman Catholic teachings. When the Vatican II officially made the Roman Catholic Church more ecumenical in its outlook, more broad-minded, you could say, accepting that other religions might have something to them. But the idea, only our religion is right, and especially in Islam, not that all Muslims buy into this, but especially in Islam, there is a strong streak which thinks that it's acceptable to persecute or even kill others if they don't convert to Islam. And if you are a Muslim and you don't want to be a Muslim anymore, then you are, according to the scriptural texts of Islam, which apparently many Muslims today still adhere to, then you are fit to be killed, body to be killed. The Muslims in India tried to persecute Hinduism by taxing mass slaughters, which are reported in their own chronicles, although some opted for coexistence. And Akbar tried to make some kind of fusion of Hinduism and Islam, which didn't work. The British were more subtle and, you could say, intelligent and far-sighted in their approach, in their skullduggery, because they'd seen that Islam had not been able to subjugate Hinduism in 700 years. So they saw that, well, we have to philosophically and culturally undermine them. So they tried to denigrate Hinduism by painting it as stupid and irrational. And it's still going on. And in today's world, people can look and see for themselves, and many are realizing that there is tremendous spiritual depth in the Vedic culture. Maybe, they might think, even more than in their own. And maybe, speculating a bit here, this may be why some fanatics who claim to belong to the religion of peace in Bangladesh attacked Hindus. Maybe that's a factor also. They can't tolerate seeing people who are dedicated to a religious path which has substance to it, because in their understanding, the only thing which can possibly be right is the thing that they were born into. And others like Jiya SM, they try to attack in another way, trying to show that Hinduism is stupid and irrational. Why, I suspect that subtly they realize they are confronted with something which the actually sensible, level-headed, rational members of their own religion will recognize as having a profundity lacking in their own theology. What is the theology? Be a Muslim or we will slander you, torture you, or kill you. I'm not saying again that everyone in Islam subscribes to that, but there is a sizable, at least minority, who do so. You're not allowed to think. You just have to do what we say. But people do think. We're trying to have people think here. The claim is that we are stupid and irrational. And, well, if it was actually stupid and irrational, I guess we couldn't be making any reply. It would just be an irrefutable fact. And again, I'm not on a trip against Islam, but as someone has made a claim in the name of Islam, saying that it's Christianity and Islam, and the name of the commentator is a Muslim name. So they claim that Hinduism is stupid and irrational. I'm replying to that. Yeah, the fanatical people, that means they don't think, they don't want you to think. They're afraid because Vedic culture is profound and their fanatical take on religion doesn't encourage or even allow anyone to think deeply. We find in the Bhagavad Gita, we find in the Vedic intellectual culture, there's so much emphasis on gyan, which doesn't mean simply to learn scriptural texts, but a very deep thinking and understanding and realization. Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasana. One has to hear, one has to contemplate and try and understand the deep topics which are being taught. And then Nididhyasana, one has to realize that and make that one with his being. But fanatics don't want deep thinking about their religion. And again, I'm not saying there isn't deep thinking in Christianity or Islam, because there certainly is. But I'm talking about the fanatics who make various types of assaults on the Vedic culture. They don't want deep thinking, because if they encourage deep thinking, it would be seen how shallow they are, how shallow the fanatics are. And if maybe they're afraid that if thinking and if actual choice was allowed, then maybe many Muslims would prefer not to stay as Muslims or Christians. And within Hinduism, it's allowed. You're allowed to convert, although there is a movement against the kind of conversion that's going on by trickery, by bribery, by love jihad. Again, BBC doesn't believe such a thing exists. And anyway, something's going on. Land jihad, go on and on and on. Anyway, as we learn from the Vedic scripture, long before the New Testament and the Quran came into existence, in the Vedic scriptures there is a description of Kali Yuga, the present age in which we live, in which hypocrisy, ignorance, barbarism, and fanaticism in the name of religion is prominent, rather than the essence of religion, which is to know God and love God. And certainly the essence of religion is not killing in the name of religion. My religion is better than yours, chop your head off. Religious, peaceful people are peaceful to humans, at least. At least religions generally, most religious people generally think that it's generally better to be peaceful and not kill humans. Unfortunately, most of the people in the world who subscribe to religion, and this includes Hindus, think that it's proper to be peaceful to humans, but it's okay to be violent to animals and torture them. And they're very upset if humans are tortured or killed. Well, then we're talking about decent, normal people, but the average decent, normal person might attend a peace conference and they'll be sitting around having their lunch at a peace conference and saying, yes, it's so bad that so much torture and killing is going on. And in the meantime, they're eating meat from an animal which has been tortured all his life and then slaughtered. Something wrong in the basic thinking process there. It's not very rational to be peaceful to humans and unnecessarily kill animals. Maybe if you're living in the Arctic Circle and you have nothing but flesh food, because vegetables don't grow there very easily, maybe there's some lichen growing which you can't eat. That's one thing. But in the world today, in most of the world today, it's quite possible to subsist on a non-flesh diet and subsist quite healthily for that matter. So that's another factor. People can't think very clearly. They may be sensible and rational in their own way of thinking, but when it comes to ethics, their rationality stops in the matter of how we treat animals. Just something to think, something to deeply ponder, as Jiya asks us to do. Yes, let's deeply ponder. It's a very good idea to deeply ponder all these things. I don't want to get into a Hindu-Muslim slugfest, because this us versus them mentality, it doesn't lead to spiritual understanding. The general attitude in Hinduism has been highly tolerant throughout the centuries, live and let live kind of mentality. But certain religious groups take advantage of that, and they become hostile and attack in various ways and try to undermine everything that the people who are tolerant to them, to undermine everything that they stand for. And at some point, and that point is coming about right now in the present generation, Hindus are beginning to think that enough is enough. For centuries, of course I say I wasn't born into this, but I've been accepted into it. So for centuries, our culture has been undermined, attacked, ridiculed, people killed, temples destroyed. And even up to the present day, if one word is spoken against Islam, you're likely to be killed. But Muslims are allowed to insult Hindu gods. The whole killing and arson and raping that went, the latest spell of that which went on in Bangladesh, was the fault of one person who placed a Quran on the knee of the Durga deity. One person. And the whole community was brutally targeted. And then it was discovered that it was actually not a Hindu who did that, who put the Quran on the knee of Durga, but it was a Muslim. It seems it was a plot to deliberately provoke violence. And we're not talking about just some gentle slapping in the face, but widespread killing. Tolerance is a hallmark of Hinduism. It has been for centuries, but there is a whole generation of Hindus who are coming up, who are, they're just feeling that we're not going to take this anymore. And they're preparing to fight back. They have that mood. It's really better we don't go down to that level. Can we come up to a more sensible and rational level? Rise above this fanaticism and enmity. That would be really religious. We talk of this religion and that religion, but it's all externals. The essence of religion begins with a search for truth. Atato Brahma Jignasa. Vedanta Sutra says, now we should inquire into the nature of spiritual reality. Actually, people who are born into a fanatical, religious atmosphere, there's no search for truth because they're taught from the beginning, this is it. We were born into this religion, therefore it must be the best. Just like someone believes, I was born in this country, it must be the best. I have a white skin must be the best. I'm Chinese, so Chinese must be best. So I was born into such and such a religion, it must be best. Well, those of you who are born into different situations, you can open your eyes. YouTube is there to help you. There are alternatives. You don't have to go along with what you were born into. It's very unfortunate that fanatical proponents of religion, including religions that call themselves peaceful, have traditionally preferred to kill persons who want to search out and go deeper. Actually, rather than being a fanatic, isn't it better to try and learn something from those who have actually dedicated their lives to spiritual understanding, or at least appreciate them? If you can't understand, at least appreciate that these are people of the Spirit, people of God. And not that because, well, they don't believe what I believe. Okay, kill them. Actually, all this Hindu-Muslim talk, it really militates against what Hindus and Muslims should share if they're really sincere, which is the motive to surrender to God. That's what Islam means, isn't it? Surrender to God, so I'm told. In Bhagavad Gita also we have the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, Savadhaman parityaja mamekam sharnang vraja ahang tva sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. Lord Krishna says, abandon all varieties of dharma, he says. That means worldly religious concepts or worldly concepts in general. And just surrender to me, Krishna, God. I will deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear, Krishna says. Is not a Muslim who is sincere to surrender to God better than a superficial Hindu who follows nothing? On the other hand, is anyone who really dedicates their life to God with no extraneous interest, is it better than someone who simply claims to belong to a religion and fanatically thinks it's better than others, but doesn't really do much? Or you may even go to church once a week, or may even pray 5 times a day if you're a Sunni, or 3 times. But someone who really dedicates everything, their whole life, to understanding God, why should such a person be murdered for that? This whole discussion came up. I gave a talk on how one of our ISKCON brahmacharis, monks in Bangladesh, was killed. He was full-time in the service of God. Killed. because he wasn't in the right religion. Religion means real religion. It doesn't mean going to God, praying, give us this, give us that. It's a thirst for God. Those who are really spiritual in any religious path can understand that real religion means to really want to come to God, to really want to live in God, serve Him, surrender to Him. Our worshipable spiritual master, Guru Srila Prabhupada, he gave us this very interesting point to ponder, that religion without philosophy is sentiment or sometimes fanaticism, while philosophy without religion is mental speculation. Okay, there's so much to say about this. Before I go on to the next part of this question, I'd just like to say that God, as understood in Vedic Vaishnav understanding, very nice conception of God. Not someone who throws people into hell forever because in one lifetime they were born in the wrong religion. Not like that. Very nice, very beautiful, very sweet, very loving, very kind. You can have a personal relationship with Him. Very beautiful, supreme personality of Godhead. Okay, still on question number 7. Okay, well, it's going to take at least another session more. So I'll finish there and I'll get on with more of the questions in another talk. Krishna willing. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Dante nitaya chunakang padayo nipatya kritvacha kakushata metadaham ravimi. Hey sadhava sakala eva vihaya durat gauranga chandra charane kurutanuragaha. Parivadatu jano yata tata va nanumokaro navayang vicharayamaha. Hari rasa madira madati mata bhuvi vilutama nartama nirvishama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.